What's up, everyone? Kevin Carrillo here, and welcome to another episode of the Cannabinoid Connect podcast. My guest today is Maha Haq, CEO and co-founder at Cannaclub University. Hello, Maha. Thanks for being with us. How are you?
Oh, thank you for having me, Kevin. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing as well as we all can right now. You know, Dallas. Well, the good news is that our cases are going down, from what I've been hearing, what the news is reporting. So that's encouraging. But you know, we're kind of just shelter in place like everybody else at this point. How are you holding up in LA? Right? Is that where you're?
Oh man, yep. I'm in LA, just hanging in there. Major spike here. We might do a citywide shutdown. Who knows? But at least cannabis is an essential business, so I am still employed.
That's right. Yeah, I had heard that a lot of the cannabis businesses in California were deemed essential, much like Colorado, I think. But there were some states that were kind of on the fence with that. So
Right. Yeah. Thankfully, we're in California. I'm in California. I'm seeing more recreational states have cannabis deemed as an essential business. I'm seeing less of that in medical states, but you know, I'm sure every day is a different development, especially in cannabis. So I'm just happy that I can still be employed.
absolutely, that is a very, very good thing right now because there's so many. I think the number was like 30 to 40 million unemployed Americans. So
Oh yeah,
it is a blessing, yes, and you're in the right space.
indeed, definitely.
And I'm so excited to talk about that because, you know, you have such your background and your career path is so unique in that, you know, your generation is really one of the first that are embarking in this new cannabis industry right out of college, right?
Yeah.
And I know that, you know, off air when we first met and we talked that, you know, you told me that you've worked in many different facets of the cannabis industry. So why don't you talk a little bit about your background and what even got you started and interested in the cannabis industry?
Ooh, so the origin story. Oh man, my mom loves it because she's part of it. So I was 17. I was caught smoking pot.
Uh-oh.
My mom caught me. And of course I'm underage and she's like, what are you doing? And of course, you know, my smart aleck self just had to give her a scientific response because she is a clinical researcher at City of Hope Cancer Center. So she is dealing with cancer patients and is very specialized in what sort of treatments they go through and how cannabis was increasingly becoming popular as a therapeutic supplement in you know, with their treatments. So I went off. I'm like, this is helpful. This is helping, you know, so many people. I'm not drinking or doing other drugs. And she said, you know what? Write me a report. You know, prove it to me. So, you know, 17-year-old Maha's like, okay, all right, let's do this. I went full in and just cited articles, journals, and you know, she was impressed. She said, you know what, why don't you come to the hospital? I used to volunteer there, so I used to work with patients. And she's like, why don't you bring this material to the hospital when you're volunteering and explain this to some of the patients who might be interested in it. So I held my first seminar of sorts. There were 9 people who showed up. Some of them were patients, some of them were their doctors. So it was very interesting to just kind of be in that position as a teenager who was caught smoking pot.
Well, so you're a natural born speaker. See, right off the bat at 17, you already have an audience, even if it was small. You got to start somewhere. But it's fascinating that you say that your mom and the hospital was open to that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I've had other guests on where, you know, they were in positions where their spouse was very ill, right? And eventually, sadly, passed. But during that time when they were very ill, I mean, Annie Epley is who I'm speaking about. She was in a position where she was sneaking THC medicine in the hospital to treat her husband because of the stigma and the dismissiveness of the, the hospitals here in the Dallas area at the time. So how, they were just open to it, or I mean,
well, it was very hush hush as expected, and I did it as a volunteer. I was just doing my normal volunteering rounds, and I found a time slot where I could gather everyone and say, hey, this is a very helpful alternative. And I just had a great time explaining it. And I guess soon after I did turn 18 eventually. And yeah, go ahead.
reaction whenever you brought that up to them? I mean, were they kind of surprised because they're probably used to the typical prescriptions that the hospitals and the medical, industry would prescribe, or were they not surprised?
They heard about it. So these were people who have had some type of exposure, which is why I was able to convince some of these patients I would see on an almost daily basis, like, hey, please check my presentation out, like validate my report. And I was a teenager, and I was just looking for just spreading the good word. I was trying to make a difference, and I did at that time, and I was very proud of myself, and that pushed me to work in dispensaries. There were some dispensaries nearby, medical dispensaries. This is during pre-ICO medical days in Los Angeles and California. This is before recreational passed, so around 2012, I'd say. So overall, I have been in the space for eight and a half years, and I started as soon as I turned 18. So I wanted to continue that patient care. I wanted to be, patient facing. I loved what I was doing at the hospital, even though it was a few times I talked about cannabis. But at the dispensary setting, the medical dispensary setting, I felt like almost sort of like a healthcare professional, but not exactly, which pushed me to learn more and go for those credentials where I could call myself someone who is providing some type of alternative healthcare. So, that began my journey in working at dispensaries.
That's amazing. So you go from, I'm 17 and I'm going to school these patients and basically people that are unaware of the medical benefits of cannabis, which no fault to their own, right? I mean, this is just something that we're learning as of now due to the regulations at the federal level. But so you're there at the hospitals, you're educating, and then you move into the dispensary space. Now this may be a dumb question, but someone my age, and of course people older than me, like I'm on the fence where there was, and there still kind of is, that stigma, right? So like, even starting this podcast, I'm sure there's some people that are like, what is he doing? Why is he talking about cannabis? Or, and I've had other people on who have said that, Deborah Borchardt, for instance, who is the owner of the Green Market Report, she used to cover different industries when it comes to finance, but she moved exclusively to cannabis, and a lot of her colleagues were like, what are you doing? This is career suicide, So did you experience any of that pushback when you entered this field at such an early age, or is it just kind of normal?
So I had to maintain a backup goal, and that backup goal is become a teacher, become a professor. I come from a family of healthcare professionals and professors. So they're like, whatever you do, Maha, just be good enough at it, know enough about it so you can teach it. So that's always been, something I still want to do. I would love to, become a professor and teach about cannabis. That is definitely one of my goals. But, my family was very supportive. They knew I was onto something, and my mom's a single parent. So it was really just her and I, and her background in biochemistry and protein chemistry in particular, she knew that I would also develop that interest in, cannabinoid sciences, cannabinoid chemistry. Like there's so much to the sciences behind cannabis that she knew I was going to get into it. So she nurtured that, and I thank her every day for it. But because she nurtured it, that made me want to bring it to others and nurture that education for others. So, that brought up Cannaclub. I wanted to teach my peers. I wanted to mentor younger people. So that's kind of how Cannaclub came about. But not until after recreational passed. So in the meantime, I was working at dispensaries. I went up the management ladder because these dispensaries, although we're providing patient care at some capacity, it wasn't refined. You know, it wasn't a refined business. The process was just like you had a bunch of pretty girls at the counter, and it was just it was already such a sexist space. And I really wanted to change that, and went up the management ladder, made some changes, brought in male bud tenders. It would only be female bud tenders around LA at least, and I'm sure majority of California medical dispensaries. But after doing that, after gaining that experience, I was going to school too. I was going to school full time and I was working full time. I did not have a life.
Right.
But it made me want to combine both my studies and my career. I wanted to just bring a little bit of work to school and bring a little bit of school to work. I tried to start a cannabis student group at the community college I was attending, Pasadena City College. I was rejected, and this was before recreational, so I understood. I transferred to UCLA. I was rejected the first year I was there. I transferred in 2016, so this is when it passed, but it wasn't implemented. Recreational was then implemented in 2018, and as soon as that happened, I'm like, you can't reject me now. There's a brewing club, there's a wine club, so you gotta give this to me. So Cannaclub was born at UCLA in 2018, at the start of 2018. No one could argue it. And that's when it just blew up and good things came of it.
Well, so first stepping back a little bit and talking about the support that you got from your parents and your family, that's amazing, right? Because that's half the battle, right? And I love how you like what you talked about. You wanted to take a little work home and you want to take a little schooling, you know, and you kind of wanted to combine those two. You're doing something with a purpose, right? My dad used to always tell me that growing up, Kevin, whatever you do, just do everything with a purpose. So you don't have to duplicate efforts, you know? And you found a niche, you found an interest, you found an industry that was on the brink of exploding, and you saw an opportunity. So talk about Cannaclub. And you know, that's one of the reasons really why I just have so much respect for what you're doing, in that it's the education factor. So, you know, for the audience that doesn't know, why don't you tell everyone what Cannaclub is and its mission?
Oh, of course. So Cannaclub is a cannabis student organization, a nonprofit that focuses on education, advocacy, and opportunities in the space. Our mission is to crush the stigma and just spread the good word of cannabis. I added that little bit on the end, but our mission is to crush the stigma through education. And our tagline is education, advocacy, and opportunity. That's what we do. We educate, we advocate for the right things in cannabis, like social equity, patient care, and we share opportunities with each other. So jobs, connecting students with jobs in the cannabis space, connecting companies with top talent at these top tier universities. So it's a whole community that focuses on these three main aspects.
So let's dive into each one. So when you speak about education first, what types of education? I mean, are there accredited classes within UCLA, or are they more like, you know, membership type groups, or what is it exactly?
So our education, we do have classes, and we do have events, panels, and we try to maintain it to be free and open to the public. Of course, students get the priority, but if we do have extra seats, it's open and free to the public. We're based on just donations and sponsorships, basically. But I guess our classes are there are all sorts of classes that we've had, the free classes. It's an interdisciplinary, you know, subject. So we did Cannabis 101 was our first launch in our let's try to make classes for our members. We did science, we did policy, we did business, we did law, and we did basic Los Angeles cannabis education, like what's going on in LA, current events. So that was very successful. So we made another curriculum after that to follow it up. That was called Growing 101. We partnered up with a cultivation brand in Los Angeles and created this whole interactive growing class experience for our Cannaclub members, and that was also very popular and successful. So in total, we created 10 classes within a school year. One of those classes ended up getting approved at UCLA, and it was the public policy class, which was taught by Professor Brad Rowe at UCLA. We brought him in to teach the free version hosted by Cannaclub, but it ended up becoming an accredited class down the line. And we're very happy about that. Slow process. We got 9 other classes to go, but, we are hopeful that the initiative that we put in to making these classes are going to be sort of promoting the other professors to take part in getting this making it an official class.
Sure.
So yeah, that's kind of what's going on at UCLA. And in terms of other schools have picked up some of this as well. UCLA is just where we started. We since then have spread to USC, UC Santa Barbara, and even in the East Coast at University of Maryland, where I'm at now, University of Central Florida, Georgetown. So we've created a larger network since then, and we do share our classes with each other so they can share it with their professors at their schools.
Wow. So is it you're up to 10 schools now where Cannaclub has expanded, or is it
We've expanded to we're in 11 in total, but because of COVID and it is summertime, there's a bit of inactivity going on. Sure. But we still have some campuses that are going strong. We are doing more multi-campus efforts. So we're having meetings that involve some of us from different schools, all having a one event together, as opposed to the in-person events we used to do at the particular campus. So it's bringing us all together, which is very interesting. We're learning a lot from students in other states and how the cannabis programs are in their states. So that's been very interesting during these times.
Yeah, absolutely. And what would you say is the perception of the club on campus, right? Is it for other students, are they kind of surprised and wow, oh my gosh, there's a Cannaclub, or do they look at it as another wine club or a brewery club? Does it have that same, or is it kind of new and exciting, or even they're surprised that it exists?
Surprised. There's a lot of interest in it, and a lot of misconceptions too. People think it's just a club full of stoners or lazy stoners. I don't even want to just say stoners. The whole misconception, the stereotypes, whatever you can think of, is sometimes attached to our club until people actually see what we're doing. That we're doing these high-level classes. We're doing, and I, did not mention so much about our advocacy efforts, but we are making sure we're taken seriously now. And in the beginning, it was so fresh, so new, and but otherwise, it's being seen by other students as a positive, forward-thinking sort of club, sort of a cannabis-focused SSDP, Students for Sensible Drug Policy, is a huge nationwide student group. But we are focused on cannabis, but we're also not just looking at drug policies. We're looking at business idea. We're sharing business ideas. Sometimes we do social events where we smoke together and other fun things.
It's like they would do at a wine club, right? I mean, they would buy the newest Pinot Noir or Cabernet Sauvignon, or so yeah, same sense. And it's just that stigma, right? I mean, going back to, again, it being listed as a Schedule I narcotic for so long, that stigma has really kind of buried the education, right? And the understanding of the medicinal and economic impacts that the cannabis plant presents,
Right.
So, what are y'all talking about and educating when it comes to the industrial hemp side? Obviously, the federal government passed the Farm Bill in 2018 that allows for mass cultivation of hemp. So, are y'all looking outside of the medicinal benefits of cannabis?
Yes, of course. So there is another student group that we do sometimes collaborate with. They are called Industrial Hemp Alliance. They started at a community college vocational school that is focused on construction and architecture. So we were hoping to do a hempcrete workshop on campus, and hopefully we can do that once COVID passes and things are back to normal. But yes, we are very interested in all facets of cannabis and hemp. We are not just restricted to cannabis and the science and the business behind it, but we're also very, very open to learning more about hemp. And we want to learn more about industrial hemp as well, because that needs a lot more attention. There's so many applications it has, and the education behind it would also be easier to push because it is hemp. It's not cannabis. Hemp is federally legal. So that's definitely something I am hoping happens in the coming months, in the coming year, who knows? But a hempcrete workshop on campus, like this particular group has done it before at other community colleges, but we would love to, we really want to do it soon.
No, absolutely. I mean, the possibilities with industrial hemp are endless, from everything from, providing our livestock and cattle the hemp seeds to eat to, using the fiber and stock and herd to build things. It's amazing. Um, so it's clear you've done a really good job of explaining Cannaclub's mission, right? You're all about education with the accredited classes that you mentioned, one of which is actually, within UCLA's curriculum, which is amazing. And I have no doubt that those other 9 will be approved soon because, why wouldn't they? You guys are doing a great job. The advocacy aspect, right, of just promoting and celebrating the cannabis plant and socializing. But then you said the opportunities where you're job matching, right? And setting these young people up for success in the industry. So let's talk a little bit about that. How many have you placed in jobs at this point, and what
Ooh,
jobs are available in the industry?
I love that question because I'm very proud to answer it. We have staffed over 100 members, 108 to be specific, in 1 month. These are people who either lost their jobs or internships, but UCLA and USC Cannaclub, both of us focusing more on LA, we staffed 108 people combined. So in 1 month. And that is awesome. I'm very proud of us for making that happen. We're very happy to secure some, opportunities and, income during these times. It's a very tough time. So it's definitely, it feels good. It feels great to be helping people out and helping companies out too. We're connecting them with some exceptional students or exceptional alums. So students are not the only members that are part of our club. We have alum members as well. We have a couple graduates. We have PhD candidates. So there's a lot of qualified people that are part of our group. And we do offer headhunting as well. If there is a particular type of candidate a cannabis company or hemp company is looking for, we can seek that. We can find someone that fits that bill. And we have a large membership. We're nationwide at around 3,000 members, so we can find someone.
That's amazing. And those jobs can entail, I mean, like basically every aspect of the industry, right? Whether like you talked about your experience working in a retail dispensary or medical dispensary, or even, in a lab, or right. I mean, what other opportunities are there?
Oh man, there's cultivation, there's distro, there's sales opportunities, there's marketing, there's direct lab, personnel opportunities that we share. It's so widespread. Like I can't even give you a category. There's so many of them, and it's amazing to have this streamlined, because we know we're helping the cannabis companies, but these cannabis companies also know they're helping us too. So it's just a very mutually beneficial relationship and partnership.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, we are donation based, we are sponsorship based. So, you know, they need some staffing help. Instead of going to a staffing or recruiting agency, you know, from the get-go, we can help with the initial recruiting. We help with the recruiting cycles, just with a donation that's, you know, typically less than what firms cost. So we want to help these companies. These companies are helping us. So it's very mutually beneficial. I do want to kind of go back to the advocacy point real quick.
Sure.
You know, besides the socials, besides, you know, educating, we do discuss a lot about social equity, what it means, reparations for the war on drugs. We really want to educate on the history of it, and we, you know, like that's really one of our visions, is to really get that point across to people who otherwise don't know so much about social equity. Not every student and not every young person is going to know about the war on drugs. So this is kind of also an outlet for us to teach that part of history that is not often taught in history classes, even college level, graduate level history courses. So we're providing that as well through our advocacy.
Yeah, and I would say, and that's a really important element of your advocacy pillar, right? Because you look at, you know, the Last Prisoners Project, and you see, like we talked about earlier, most of these businesses in California, if not all, are deemed essential, right? And then you have people that are locked up still for petty crimes related to cannabis offenses. So when you talk about the history, are you speaking specifically, and you say the war on drugs, are you speaking specifically about, you know, how cannabis was deemed, or the new term marijuana, and it was really attack on the minority population to stigmatize the plant?
Yes. We talk about how the Black and Brown community has been affected, how we can rise from it, and what needs to be done to make those reparations. Yes, we go through the history. We talk about like the 1930s, what happened then. Then we talk about the 1970s, what happened then. Like we go from the Marijuana Tax Act to it being absolutely banned, criminalized. Yes, we go through it all. And we talk a lot about solutions too. You know, we can teach the history aspect all we can, but that's our education part. But the advocacy is, what are solutions and what can we do? How can we make a difference or an impact, a positive social impact rather? We have gone to City Hall during times where they were discussing the social equity programs. We have written letters to officials, government officials, talking about how the social equity program can be better or refined, because there's issues with it everywhere. It's not just out here in LA, not just out here in California. Like this is a new thing, and it needs a lot of refinement. So that is also part of our advocacy, is we are offering solutions, offering options, and trying to give make our platform available to social equity folks, social equity applicants, just so we can just create this community and make some differences together. But we are very much focusing on solutions as well, instead of just teaching about it.
That's good, right? Because, you know, you can present the history, or you can even, there's groups and organizations that just kind of either complain or they advocate, but there's really no solution presented, or, you know, so it's good that y'all are thinking about ways in which we can tackle some of the challenges that the industry is facing at the moment.
Exactly. Yeah, we're trying to make positive social impacts.
Right. And it sounds like it. So that leads me to my next question. And that's, so why is it important to you to involve younger people in this space today?
This is, of course, a new industry legally. It's a chance to mold the space. It's a chance to kind of implement those values that are missing or are neglected in other industries. This space is giving more of a platform to people of color than any other industry has. So young people are going to push that forward. They're going to push that narrative. They're going to mold this new space. So of course it's important to involve them, educate them, and nurture it. The new generations are, you know, as the new generation says, more woke than some of these older people who are in these old-fashioned running industries. But this is such a new space. We're starting like from scratch. It's such a young place, and I really believe in young people just molding it the right way, instilling values that are neglected in other industries, and is a chance to see new change. So yeah, and of course there's an abundance of opportunities, and that's what young people are looking for, is opportunities. And yeah, that's they're gonna mold it. They're gonna take over.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. In that, of course, like when thinking about consumption, you know, of course, you need to be an adult over 21. But as we talked about earlier, with so many applications, particularly in the industrial hemp market, it's important for young people to understand the value of this plant outside of consumption, right? And what it can do economically. And that education starts with what y'all are doing at the ground floor at Cannaclub. So it's just incredible to see you know, spearheading this effort, and how it's already taken expansion. You know, you said 11 other universities. COVID has kind of slowed things down, but it's slowed everything down. And, you know, once we get past this as a country, things will start picking back up again.
Yeah. And we're still gonna do virtual events, virtual gatherings. And like I said earlier, it's a nationwide event now. It's not just at one campus. So I think it's going to bring in more engagement and more students together at other schools. And, you know, like, as a lot of people out here in LA say, you know, UCLA and USC, crosstown rivals, how are they together? Well, we brought us together. So I'm sure we're going to be brought together. We're going to be brought together with other campuses as well. And we have been, and it's been very positive. So even though we're dealing with this weird era, I'm sure we're going to get out of it strong, because I think we're already, we're maintaining strength. So I'm very positive about Cannaclub, and it's open. It's also open to really anyone who wants to even support us. Like, it's not just restricted to students. We have alum, we have faculty, staff members that are part of the group. So it's a collective that really just wants to promote the education, advocacy, and opportunities in the cannabis space.
Mm-hmm. It's a testament that the cannabis plant brings people together, especially state rivals, like you mentioned, USC and UCLA. See, there's a prime example right there.
Exactly.
But, you know, so you talked about the trend of you're seeing more virtual opportunities with Cannaclub because everybody obviously can't be in person with what's going on with this pandemic. What do you envision the future of cannabis education and research being?
Ooh, oh man. So, well, because we are in COVID, I know research has been paused at some places. I used to work at the UCLA Cannabis Research Initiative, and they actually had plans to start human trials this summer. But of course, with COVID, that is pausing it, like it is for a lot of other research programs. But, you know, I am seeing more research being, I guess, proposed nowadays. So I'm attending University of Maryland School of Pharmacy, and I'm attending their Master's of Science in Pharmaceutical Sciences, focusing on medical cannabis sciences and therapeutics. So where this is it's in Maryland. They just started off their medical cannabis program the same year that this graduate program went online. But what's also interesting is where the School of Pharmacy is located. It's within the 2-mile radius of the NIH and the FDA headquarters. So they've got a close eye on what we're doing. And of course, there's potential for more research to be streamlined through the school I'm at, and there has been. And you know what's interesting? I actually just saw this right, I'd say 5 minutes before I got on this with you, but the FDA just issued a draft guidance on cannabis research, and this is just today. This has happened today, so very interesting to say the least. I have yet to read it, but it's a draft guidance that has a set of rules for researching cannabis. So it's good to see the FDA is making some moves finally. They kind of need to,
Yeah,
but
they've been they've been dragging their feet for a while, but that is encouraging. Wow, I hadn't seen that. That, like you said, that just came out today. Wow, that's good news. Yeah.
This was actually made public on Tuesday, so yesterday. But it's very interesting to see that they are promoting I wouldn't say promoting, but they are publicizing a draft guidance. So I'm wondering, is rescheduling being considered? Maybe. If it does get rescheduled to Schedule 2, research will be allowed and would be easier to do. So I'm hoping they're looking at us at the School of Pharmacy, University of Maryland, and like, oh, we should hop on to something. So I'm seeing research being more accessible now, especially after this guidance is coming out. So
Well, that brings up a good point. And so what is the difference you're seeing? So like, attending and UCLA for your undergrad, obviously California is a very cannabis friendly state. Now you're at the University of Maryland, obviously taking online classes, but when it comes to their curriculum and your major, which I think you said cannabis and therapeutic remedy.
So my master's is in pharmaceutical sciences, focusing on medical cannabis sciences.
Okay. Sorry, I butchered that. Yeah.
No, it's okay. It's a mouthful.
So having said that, I mean, are you seeing more barriers and challenges and regulations with the University of Maryland? Obviously, that state being different than cannabis when it comes to regulations, or not?
I think they're being more progressive about it because they just did legalize medical. So they're behind on the medical aspect, but I think they're progressing quicker than I guess other states may be, because I do strongly think it has to do with the influence of the NIH and the FDA being in that state. So I'm sure there's some sort of influence there, but I do think states that are nowadays legalizing medical will be more privy to doing it, to making it recreational. It took us a while to make it recreational here. Colorado did it before us. They were on top of it. Took us a very long time when you compare, 1996 and then 2018. It took us a very long time in California. So states like Maryland, I think they're going to be much quicker and way more progressive. Yes.
Yeah, Colorado, they don't give a shit. I mean, they just decriminalized psilocybin, mushrooms. I mean, they're going all for it in college.
That's the way to do it. Decriminalize all that stuff. Lower the arrest rates and just
I mean, these prisoners are stacked on top of each other in these prisons. It's crazy for minor offenses. So tell me about your current role. I know that are you in business development marketing with CannaSafe?
Yes. So I work at CannaSafe right now. It's the first ISO accredited analytical cannabis testing lab in the world, meaning it is the first cannabis lab that got their accreditation, their ISO accreditation, which is an international standards for labs. It's been great working there. It's a new perspective for me. So I didn't really get to finish what my work background has been. I did tell you I worked at dispensaries. I then followed that up with working at a delivery tech startup. So I got the cannabis startup experience and the delivery exposure. And then I worked for I worked at a couple more places, but then I worked at a consulting firm where I did business license applications. I worked on applications in several states and a couple countries. So I got to work on some international projects relating to cannabis, which was a wonderful experience. Uh, I was exposed to working with distro networks through that. I was I guess deliveries, retail, all the aspects of the cannabis business. So yeah, everything, and extraction as well, but just not the analytical lab. Sorry.
Well, and while obviously in the United States, each state varies with its laws and regulations when it comes to plant. What did you see initially working internationally? Like,
Ooh.
are
Oh.
countries more progressed than the others, or was it elements of some that were more progressive, or what was that? Did that
So
look?
one example I can share is I got to work on a project in Portugal, and that was a cultivation project that I was working on. And the land they have there, it was like hectares and just like, whoa, this is going to be a massive grow. Like, you don't really see that as often, like that, the size of that often in the States, but it was a massive grow. I don't even know, like it was a couple hectares. I can't even like, it was a lot for me to comprehend, but it, they're doing it. They can do it. And they did it. And, oh gosh, that was just, I guess, a major, like kind of a shock to me. I'm like, oh, you guys can get this much land like here. And it's also very interesting because import and export regulations are just so foreign to here. We can't do any of that. We don't have any import export regulations. Nothing. That concept doesn't exist here. Of course, the EU, European Union, has their own guidelines, and of course, other countries as well have their own guidelines. None of them are similar, but at least they have it in place, and we don't. So we got to catch up. So
Right.
that's one of the major differences too.
Right. And that's what's so sad is because I've had scientists on and geneticists on, and I asked that question, and they said the same thing in a different way than what you're saying. But when I asked them about our technology and how it stacks up internationally, they're like, there's no comparison. Like, we have the infrastructure and everything that we need to learn everything we can about these cannabinoids and the plant itself. But again, due to the regulations at the federal level, it's just been a hindrance. It's been handicapping us in so many ways.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh man, but that was very good firsthand experience stepping into the international market. But I was missing lab experience. Although I had helped develop manufacturing and extraction labs, I just did not really have much information on the analytical lab space. It's already very interesting to consider what is an analytical lab. Like, what are you actually doing? We're screening for contaminants. We're screening for pesticides, heavy metals, all this, crazy bad things you don't want to consume. So I got to learn a lot about that, and I was able to do a research report at CannaSafe as well. We got a bunch of illicit market vapes, otherwise, sold to, kids and students, underage students. A lot of the Cannaclub students were getting these underground cartridges, vape cartridges, and there were some cases going on. Kids were getting sick. So of course, when I was working at CannaSafe, I'm like, oh, this is going on, in the Cannaclub community, and they're like, this is going on everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Lo and behold, the EVALI crisis last year broke out. EVALI standing for electronic vape associated lung illness. So this is an illness any type of illness that's caused by vaping. And that was attributed to all the gunk that was found. Primarily in the research, what we found was the pesticide myclobutanil was causing just causing a bunch of illnesses, was causing popcorn lung, was damaging your bronchioles. it was crazy to find all that, because this is what my peers and my student members in Cannaclub were vaping. So
Right.
it was very interesting, going from, you know, graduating from UCLA, starting at CannaSafe, and having that as my my first introduction to the analytical lab space. I got to work on this crazy project, and you know, we even got to speak with a mother who lost her 21-year-old daughter to a lung illness that was caused by an illicit market vape.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very interesting to kind of just get pushed into this new lab space that I didn't know of before, and just learn so much immediately, and kind of just discover so much immediately. So it's been a very, very positive experience thus far.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. I mean, well, first off, your experience in that analytical lab, I mean, like you said, you get thrown in, and you know, one of the biggest news stories was that, you know, at the time, was that vaping crisis, right? And being in Dallas, Texas, we did see, you know, those illicit vapes enter the market for sure. You would, you know, you'd get one, and then 2 days later it would turn black. You know, it wouldn't have like golden honey look. So it definitely was happening. My question to you is, you know, when I heard the percentages of people being affected by this, now I don't know if the percentages are right or what was being portrayed in the media, but I think it was like under 10%, like 6%. So while I know that that was a medical, you know, it was something that was could hurt you, right? If you're not smoking the right substance within those vapes. But do you think that there was also some politicizing going on from the tobacco industry to kind of do away with vapes in general and e-cigarettes, or not?
I do think so. I do believe there was something, just some ulterior motives going on here and there for sure. I do believe in that. But I also think the I guess the good that came out of it, especially working at CannaSafe, was promoting responsible use and consumer safety.
Right.
So, you know, to kind of, you know, argue back with those ulterior motives from, you know, the industries who want to stop THC vapes or cannabis vapes or what have you. The cannabis space got to promote responsible use, consumer safety, shopping legal, not going to illicit dispensaries, not putting yourself at risk for a cheaper product, making sure you do get a product that is tested, making sure your product has a certificate of analysis that you can refer to. So we promoted the informed buyer, the informed consumer. And, you know, beyond just the safety of your cannabis or hemp product is, you know, you should also know how potent it is. It's not just about, you know, if it's clean or safe, it's about how much you're also consuming as well. Is this potency what you want? Is this just general information that a consumer otherwise wouldn't pay attention to? So that in itself just kind of educates the consumer to be responsible, to promote tested, safe products. So I guess that's how we addressed those people lobbying against cannabis vapes, was just shop at a licensed shop. You know,
Right.
get products that have a clean bill of health.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's really, and that's really inherently what Cannaclub, we talked about earlier, what the mission is, right? Is to inform and educate people, especially when it comes to their health, and making sure that they're buying the right products.
Right.
And that, you know, we're seeing that happen in the industry right now, because it's so new, right? With the industrial hemp market, obviously more states adopting recreational use, and there's a lot of that snake oil and that black market activity that we need to, you know, get rid of, so that people are actually intaking quality products. You know,
Yeah.
it's good that y'all are doing that. So
Yeah, it's been an interesting time for me too, because like I did not really care so much about it myself, but then after I got to learn about it, it's, you know, I do check the test results.
Sure.
On the back of my packaging, I do see like, oh, there is exactly this much percent of cannabinoids in here. So, it's become a fun thing too, and a good way to, a good, I guess, practice to have when you're buying products in general, buying cannabis products in general. Some people look at the ingredients of a food when they're going to a grocery store. Why not, look at a cannabis product ingredients or contents? So, just be a conscious consumer, an informed consumer, and that's what we promote, and that's specifically what I've been promoting. I go out, well, now not during COVID, but I go out to communities that are around a lot of those illicit shops. Like our disproportionate areas do have more of those illicit dispensaries, or just shops that sell like tainted products and bad products. Like I go to those areas and educate them to not get those products, to inform the youth as much to avoid them as well. So just be a responsible consumer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a good privilege doing that.
Yeah, no, that's sound advice. Like just like anything that you're buying, you always do your research, whether it's food or furniture or what have you, right? And cannabis is no different, especially with the industry being so new.
Exactly.
So Maha, I mean, is there anything else that you want to talk about? I know that I do want you to leave the audience with, if there's young people out there listening, like what, advice would you give them if they were interested in entering the cannabis space?
Oh man. Oh, so much advice. Oh, but honestly, what I say to everyone is, study the past, impact the present, and plan for the future. So that's how you do it. You want to be in the space, learn what has happened, be aware of what's happened, study about it, study cannabis, study the history, and then impact the present, make some positive changes. What is your purpose for the present? What are you doing? Make sure it has a purpose, make sure you're making positive social impacts, and then plan for the future. What are you trying to do? How are you going to continue this purpose? Will it remain the same? It doesn't have to. What is your passion, and how are you going to plan accordingly? So that's my advice to young people.
It's well said from the powerful Maha Haq. Well, Maha, is there anything else that you want to leave our audience with before we sign off?
Oh man. Just keep learning. We're students our whole lives. We never stop being a student. We're a student of life. So I really promote education in any aspect. You want to learn something that's not cannabis, do it. But I think just always learning is the best thing. And that's what I love about cannabis. You can never stop learning. There's so much to be like learned and researched, and yeah, just so much. And I'm excited. I'm excited to learn more, and I hope everyone else is too.
Absolutely. It's exciting times. We're just scratching the surface of learning more about this plant and the cannabinoids found within it. And it's programs like yours, Cannaclub, started and founded at UCLA. Those are the exact programs that we need to move the needle, in this space. So where can people find you on social media if they wanted to get in touch with you or be educated with the content that you're promoting?
Yes. So myself personally, I am Maze Haq on Instagram. That's MAZEHAQ, and Z as in zebra. That's me personally. You want to check out Cannaclub. We've got several profiles for that, but it's pretty easy to find us. So UCLA is cannaclub.ucla on Instagram, and then it's cannaclub.usc, cannaclub.ucsb. And then we're in the works of creating our Cannaclub.University, which will be all-encompassing collective, and that is our nonprofit, Cannaclub University. But we're getting that. We're going to launch that soon. And our websites are cannaclub@ucla.org, cannaclub@usc.org, and so on and so forth with our other chapters. It's a similar format. We want to keep it standardized, but we are launching our Cannaclub University platforms, and because we're all nationwide now, all of the students are coming together, so we need one campus or one collective that can house us, and that's going to be Cannaclub University. But pretty easy to find me. I am probably the only Maha Haq in some areas. Maybe there's a couple more, we'll see. But I'm easy to find, and I am happy to be reached out to by whoever and help anyone out.
Awesome. Well, Maha, I'm glad you exist. We need people like you to start at the, to start and help these people at the younger level, at the younger ages, really understand the benefits and the, and the opportunities that this plant presents. So keep up the great work, keep fighting the great fight. And I have no doubt that, next time that you're on, we'll be talking about Cannaclub University and all the great, courses that you have available to the public.
Awesome. Oh, thank you so much, Kevin. This has been an awesome opportunity. I'm happy we got to talk about Cannaclub.
And it's not going to be the last time. I'm going to have you on again. So, well, I appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll talk to you again next time. All right. Bye, everyone.